Hello YouTube, Justin here. In this video, we're going to be talking about how there are inside bars. One broke bullish, one broke bearish. What does that mean? It's getting ever so close to that $100 mark. Closing out today's session at 99.8. That's really close to getting to that $100 mark. And if we repeat today, tomorrow, we will be there. So again, looking at these inside bars, on the left-hand side, we got QQQ. On the right-hand side, we got SPY. So who's in charge and who was winning, Qs or SPY? Let's have a look and see here. So what's important to note is just that QQQ did put in a lower high and a lower low. Technically, that is a bearish break with a massive hole and not a very nice sign for the bulls. So the bears are actually a little bit more in control of QQQ than we would otherwise think. Looking over here on SPY, we saved the low of the day by 6 cents. So we saved by 6 cents. We got a higher low, we got a higher high, gap is now filled. So the question is, who is winning here? Is it the bulls or is it the bears? It's hard to tell. However, what I would say is that what I see over here on SPY today is what I would expect to see on QQQ tomorrow, where all we were really able to do was to basically go and test the range between the open yesterday and the high of the day. So here's what I'm noticing. We got this relative low going all the way back to here. Check, got through that. We made it up to the open from yesterday at 355.65, and then just stalled out between this range here, between the open and the high. Remembering that most volume transacts at the open and at the close, which is why this real body is so important. So who's winning? It's hard to tell. Let's have a look at our base case and see what's happening here. So in terms of key dates, we've gone through pretty much everything. We even had James Bullard talk this morning, giving more hawkish comments. He wants to see 300 in the bag by the end of the year, 325 by the end of the year. It's pretty bearish. And I don't know what we're going to do, but we had the initial jobless claims out today, and there is no real economic data coming out tomorrow. What we do have is more geopolitical tension. No surprises there. Next week, we've got earnings kicking off, and we got CPI. There's always something to be worried about. Here's your things for next week. In terms of why bull or bear, here is why I think that today's price action is notable. We'll come back and look at this in a moment, but monthly continuation, not really. So we'll look over here at SPY on the month. We're still red. We're only red by about 2.89 points or about 0.6%, but we're still red. So that I would hardly call that continuation. And with tomorrow being the weekly close, I really care about the printed close at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Tina. Again, I believe it's still Tina. Bad news versus good news. I am still seeing the bull narrative here. However, the most important thing for me was that monthly continuation. So how are we going to print a positive quarter and get a big gain if we can't even go higher on the weekly? So far, SPY is looking solid, but QQQ is dragging us down. It's hurting us. And then finally here for the bears, 454 would be an impenetrable fortress. Not so much. We look here on the monthly, printed again. Look on the weekly, printed twice. However, on the daily chart now, ever since we fell below 454, we have not come back up to retest it. So if these bears are still in control, we should not make it back up to 454. And what that would mean for me is this. Let's go back here to QQQ or the Qs and SPY. What that means for me is that best case scenario is that QQQ for the bears, right? Best case scenario, QQQ goes no higher than a gap fill, roughly 360. S&P reverses back up, makes it to about 454, and then that's it. We get our gap fill over here on on the Qs. So we get all the way back here to roughly 360 on QQQ. We test it here, and then we reject down, start taking those legs lower. SPY would make it no higher than 454. And if we can't do it this week, next week, we cannot go higher if the bears are in control. Again, as QQQ goes up for its gap fill, that is going to drag the S&P up to roughly 454. And that is where we get our extra confirmation that we're not looking all that strong. So for the bulls and the bears, we have key lines in the sand that they have to break for us to get that confirmation. Recession risk, what? And yield curve inversion, what? Doesn't really seem to be impacting us. So what do we have? Well, Fed minutes, Russia, and earnings. Nothing really has happened. Let's look at our base case. Tina for stocks, still correct. It's a matter of which stocks. And 454 pivot. It's definitely still a pivot. It's a pivot on the daily. It's a pivot on the weekly. So what am I telling you? Again, if we can't get above 454 this week and we fail to do it next week, what is 454 becoming? An impenetrable fortress. Ah, that's right. Bulls and bears are fighting for direction. Bulls still have the edge. That's still my opinion. I think they have less of an edge today than they did before. Why? We're red on the week. Then we have earnings kicking off on, is it tomorrow? I think it kicks off tomorrow, yeah, with some banks. So banks have been fading into earnings. There's a higher chance they can actually outperform post-earnings. Is there anything else I want to go through? I don't think so. All right, so now looking at the heat map in terms of where the market shook out. So healthcare caught a bid again. Consumer defensives caught a bid. Energy caught a bid. Technology is mostly flat. We got some leaders here like Tesla, Microsoft. But again, what day is it? It's Thursday. So what do? We pump into Wednesday, fade into Friday. This is what I would normally expect to see. And I'm actually not even sure where the 10-year note closed out today. It closed up. So dollars up, 10-year note is up. That is 100% going to add pressure to technology stocks. No surprise. I would also note that I'm noticing a key area on NVDA. So if NVDA is still a leader and chips are leading tech, we cannot go any lower. This is a big, big, big level to hold here. Roughly 234 on NVIDIA. We're back testing the breakout. We're back testing the 50 MA here. But we are now, let's actually use our anchored VWAP and go back to the all-time high. We are below our anchored VWAP to the all-time high as well. Not a sexy look. We're bouncing off the white line, which is a pivot. Red is resistance. Green is support. So in terms of where we shook out, here's what I've been noticing. We've been getting really close to getting back inside of fear. Again, at 44 or lower, that's inside fear. At 56 or higher, we're inside of greed. So even though we're seeing lots of movement on QQQ and SPY, we're not really seeing a decisive break in terms of fear or greed on these. So again, we're getting close to going back into fear. We're getting close to going back into greed, but no decisive move one way or the other. Why? Well, because day by day, we're getting different data. And we're looking here at the 1 day, 1 week. Oh, it's pretty much red everywhere except for those Mike Wilson playbook plays like healthcare, consumer defensives, REITs, utilities. That's about it. Going back here to the last 1 month, though, and again, this is going to include window dressing and pre-Fed, post-Fed, 300 basis points, everything. What do we know? Well, it's still pretty broad-based. The market is still nicely off its highs, nicely off its lows, meaning the lows we put in before, and it's holding up not so bad. So what do I mean by that? Not holding up so bad. Well, look, we advanced by about 11%. So 11 steps forward. And then what? Oh my goodness, 4 steps back. That's a 1/3 retracement. That's not really all that bad. And what it tells us is that there is no alternative. People are reluctant to hold on to stocks, but what else are you going to hold on to? I don't know. What last thing I want to point here, I want to point out 2 more things here on QQQ versus SPY as well. So let's delete everything again and do this. What I would just note is that if we are getting a move lower or higher, we have to think about how are these moving averages coming into play here for the Qs and also for SPY. Look, soft landing roughly to the 200, dead cat bounce, soft landing down here to the 50. Here we're crashing, right? Reject, reject, crash. Why? We still have a hole on the chart. Over here, there is no longer a hole. S&P is more stable. We're going to need to see more than just the trillion-dollar companies doing well for this to dramatically move higher. So what do I mean by that? Well, in the last 1 week, what do we see? Well, as red as the trillion-dollar companies are, chips are more red, right? They're redder. And what else? CRM, more red. Now, more red. Autodesk, redder, right? Yuck. Disney, more red. So these names are holding up, but even like Match, right? Down 6, Twitter up 30. But it's not that these technology companies are able to move the market higher no matter what. They also need participation from the other names, the ones that are here and that are quite red. So that's why we're seeing some mixed views here. I would also note that people are likely chasing the names for window dressing. And now that we're roughly 1 week post quarterly rebalancing, they're probably unwinding those, which is why we're seeing some new leaders emerge. And we're seeing some shakeups happen as well. All right, now let's shift gears here to, again, I don't want to look at the weekly chart now. So thinking about all this data, let's go back to SPY. And remembering that yesterday we had that big old doji, and then today, what do we have? We have a higher low and a higher high. For me, that is a decisive move. And it tells us that the bulls are attempting to take control. Here, we got a lower high and a lower low with an uglier candle. So we knew that there was still negative pressure building up, and that got released today. The bulls are starting to take control, but again, red bar is bigger than the green one. Not a good look. Looking at SPY, green bar is smaller than the red one. Also not a good look. What does that mean? It means that the bears are fighting it less, and it takes less buying pressure to move them back higher. Now, as we look here at the weekly charts, well, we notice that we got a perfect bounce off the 50 weekly, and that is the perfect area for the bulls next week to defend, making sure, like on the daily chart here, we got a higher low by about 6 cents. We cannot print a lower low next week, period, full stop. We cannot go below 433.42. Why? That 50 MA is still curling up, which means that that 50 MA will get lost or pierced next week if we print a lower low. So that doji with bullish continuation today is now giving S&P a spinning top. And where we close tomorrow really matters. Why? It'll be the printed close on this weekly candle here. So SPY range bound, no clear direction, bouncing off support to turn into more than a dead cat bounce. We have to take out the high from this candle next week. We got to get back above 458 and back above that monthly area where we got 458.12, I believe. 458.12, yeah. And then we got to take out 462, and then we're off to the races for the bulls. In terms of QQQ, so what do we have? Well, we had a more of a spinning top, not really a doji, closed lower than it opened. Today we have pretty much the exact opposite. Lower tail, smaller upper wick. Nothing's really changed. If we look here on the weekly now, what do we have? Yuck, right? Bouncing off pink line or the pink pivot. Again, now we have a inverse head and shoulders, which is forming here. Only one candle. Looks a lot different than the left shoulder here too. So what does this mean? Well, we're down by 2%. Doesn't look great. We got a rejection. We got a lower high. We got a lower low. We were able to penetrate the 50, but not hold it. So we need more than Tesla and Apple and Microsoft and Google going higher. We need all the rest of the NASDAQ following suit. And I just don't think people have the same conviction to hold on to those names as they do holding on to the trillion ones with pricing power. Like who? Apple, Tesla, Microsoft. So that's what I really want to see. And for next week, again, we cannot go below this pink line. We have to stage a higher low. So I believe that as of right now, I would actually scratch this out and say that right now there is no edge. Why? Next week is what we're going to need. These daily bars are giving us mixed signals. Why? Inside bars are breaking bull for SPY, bear for QQQ, which means we don't have a clear winner. The market wants to rally, just does not have that confirmation. Also have to watch and see how we react to that $100 DXY and that TNX bull break. So again, looking here on TNX, did we actually get over it? Oh my goodness. High 2673. We got over the 200 monthly moving average here. Crap, right? That's not good for tech stocks at all. We want to see a rejection off of here. Otherwise, there's going to be more added pressure to tech, and it might be harder for us to actually break bullish on tech, but SPY can go higher. All right, there was one more thing I want to point out here before I forget. So here we got weekly charts now. Over on the right, we got SPY. On the left, we got QQQ. And in a normal market, we want to see QQQ leading SPY or QQQ above the 50 MA before we see SPY back above. What's also very interesting is that when we flip over here to BTC on the weekly chart, what do we know? BTC looks just like QQQ. Interesting. And over here on the right, we're going to add an ETH. On the weekly chart, it's actually above the 50, back testing the 50. Here, we got a rejection off the 50. So what's interesting about this is that BTC is actually not leading. ETH is. And who was leading between SPY and QQQ? It's SPY. So remember that ETH versus SPY thing we did on the Friday stream last week? That's pretty much what I'm showing you here. SPY is stronger than tech, and Ethereum is stronger than Bitcoin. Is that what we would expect to see? Usually not. So what I want to see is what happens next week, where either we get QQQ dragging S&P down or SPY dragging QQQ up. And then I want to see whether or not BTC drags ETH down or if ETH drags BTC up. this might be a little bit confusing to you. So again, just remember that there is going to be that Friday live stream for tomorrow. It's already scheduled on the channel. I encourage you to watch that tomorrow. And if not, there will be that weekend video, which is going to queue up in a moment here, which is going to walk you through the bull and the bear case for this week. Thank you for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.